Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Cipher Brief virtual studio. I'm Tom Nagorski. Good to have you with us for a conversation today about recruiting and recruitment in the U.S. military. We pay so much attention here to weapons and weapons systems, but of course, this is at the heart of it all, and we're delighted to have with us Beth Ash at RAND. She has done a lot of research and work on this issue. She's a senior principal economist at RAND. Among other things, she covers defense manpower. Beth, thank you so much, first of all, for being with us. You've written and spoken lately about both the numbers and the quality of U.S. military recruits. And maybe if we could start with the numbers. There have been a lot of statements made, including by the new Defense Secretary. But how, from your standpoint, do you gauge how the military writ large is doing when it just comes to sheer numbers across the services?
So the services have to have a certain end strength. How many people are going to be there? And they can meet that end strength either through recruiting people or retaining the people they have. And of course, they actually do both. So recruiting is really important to meeting their overall strength. And what they do is they set each year a recruiting goal on the number of people they want to bring in. And so what's happened is, people have called this the recruiting crisis. And usually when crises emerge, they first show up in the Army because the Army is the largest service and has the largest recruiting goal. And sure enough, in 2018, the Army missed its recruiting goal. And then again, it missed it in 2022, big time by a lot. And then the problem spread. So in 2023, it was the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and it was really just the Marine Corps and the Space Force that met their numbers. So by 2023, it was a pervasive problem across the services.
And what about lately? Secretary Hegseth has announced, I think he said January was the best month the Army had had in years. The Air Force Chief of Staff has made similar comments. Are these, just flash in the pan things? Is there some uptick happening that the military should be happier about? What's going on?
So in terms of numbers in 2024, so the way the fiscal year works in
Mhm.
the government, the fiscal year ends in September. So for 2024, they actually, all the services but the Navy met their numbers in terms of recruiting. So that improvement, 2023 was a bad year, 2024 was a better year. And even the Navy, though it missed it, it was well on track to making it. And so the good news in terms of numbers really was starting to show up in 2024. And now what's happened in 2025 is that all of the services are making the mission. And in the case of the Army and the Navy, and it might be another service, they are well exceeding the numbers.
And do you have any idea, or is it too early to say? I mean, I'm sure the new administration would like to think it's because of them. Is there anything else? Are there economic issues usually? What accounts for a swing up or down?
So we don't even know what caused the crisis. So we don't know, what's fixed it. We have a lot of research over the 50 plus years of the all volunteer force on the factors that affect recruiting. So of course we have hypotheses about, because we know from past research the type of things that help recruiting, but there's a lot that has been changing all at once. And there hasn't been the kind of forensics to say, okay, it was due to this, this, and this that the problem arose. And now that it's improving, it's this, this, and this. So we can hypothesize and draw from past research, but that type of rigorous analysis just hasn't been done. But as you say, the types of things you mentioned, such as the civilian economy, the opportunities to go to college for young people, just a host of pay in the military, pay in the civilian world, just the resources brought on to bear for recruiting, like the number of recruiters, it's not just numbers, it's how they manage those recruiters, how do they select recruiters, how they deploy them across the country, how they train them, it's a sales force, how do they motivate them, the marketing, advertising, but it's like a lot of stuff. And then they've even created a whole new bunch of programs that are new. So a lot has happened and we don't know what the good news is due to.
Right. And at the same time that I was reading some of those quotes and those reports and so forth, I read something from Lawrence Wilkerson former State Department official who leads this task force looking at challenges across the military. And on this subject, he said the U.S. military has been shrinking for 30 years. This is a quote. But its global commitments haven't changed, and it's not clear that the military is large enough anymore for America to uphold its promises. I guess that gets back to your original point about crisis, right? That has nothing to do with recent numbers.
Yeah, that is an issue of, do we have the force to do the missions that, the president has set out to do? And in some ways, that's a sort of a different topic. The
Mhm.
issue about recruiting is, are we bringing in the people, and then are we retaining those people and training them, developing, promoting them so that those people are in the units and doing the jobs and they're ready to do those missions.
Recognizing excellence in national security. The Cipher Brief Honors Dinner celebrates those who've made a real difference in protecting our nation. It's an unforgettable evening with top leaders in the field. Join us in honoring these remarkable contributions. Reserve your seat now at cipherbriefhonors.com.
You've mentioned retention a couple of times. How have the various services been doing on that front? I gather you said that's been a problem too.
So actually, retention is a good news story. Retention has been quite strong and quite strong for quite some time. So for the Army, I think I want to say, even going back to 2017, they've been exceeding their goals in terms of retention. It's not just the Army, all the services. Does that mean there are not pockets of problems? There are. There's always pockets of problems. Certain communities like aviators, there's always some retention issues. But overall, retention has been quite strong, and that's a good news story.
And I know these are hard. I'm putting you on the spot again, but is there something that accounts for those? I would imagine, when the nation is in the midst of two wars, and being in a service can be, not just a stressful job, but a very dangerous one. Does the end quite some time ago of the Iraq conflict and going on nearly 2 years now, I'm sorry, 4 years now in Afghanistan, does that affect retention, or is that there's totally other things?
Well, a lot of things affect retention. Like, just as there's a lot, people, we have information from surveys, we have information from actually factors affecting, decisions of people to leave. People join the military for a particular reason. If they can do the thing the reason why they joined and are staying, it's also a family decision. So it depends in some ways how it's impacting their spouse and their family. But, frankly, people just, not to say there is an unhappiness, but people seem generally happy with what
Mhm.
they're doing. And frankly, military compensation has been, quite robust, and
Mhm.
the benefits package, and it's quite attractive, especially when you're facing a civilian labor market that's been quite, it's a tight market, but there's a lot of uncertainty there as well.
Right. Now, you wrote and spoke, I think, in some of your recent work about the quality of recruits. And here I'll quote you, and you tell us a bit more about what you had in mind. You said recently the numbers are being filled, but the quality of recruits is a, quote, true readiness issue. So what's at play there?
So let me just start with the numbers and then tell you why the numbers matter. So the numbers is the Navy in even with our good year, 2024, where all the services were pretty much making the mission, except for the Navy, which was close. The Navy was off in terms of quality, and not by a little, but by a lot. And now when we look at the quality numbers in 2025, yes, services are exceeding their missions in some case, but the Army and Navy do not appear to be making their quality marks. So what do I mean by quality, and why does it matter? So there's actually a very formal definition of quality of recruits. I know for civilians, civilian world, that's weird. Like, why are we calling it quality? But way quality is defined for a recruit is that for an enlisted, that they have a high school diploma and that they score above average on an aptitude test.
Hmm.
And why those two? Well, a lot of research has shown that people who get their high school diploma are people who will complete their enlistment contract and won't drop out early. So it's a predictor of attrition, and people who are high school diploma grads are less likely to drop out. In terms of aptitude, there's research, quite a bit of research across the services, although it's somewhat old, that shows that people who have higher aptitude, who score better, do better on real life, hands-on military tasks in terms of following, being trainable, absorbing the training, applying the training, communicating, doing the skills, and in some ways doing the skills efficiently according to tactics like they're supposed to. And so it matters for productivity. So when I say the quality marks, so the Office of Secretary of Defense sets benchmarks for each service. Each service, each year has to meet certain benchmarks. They have to have at least 90% of the recruits be high school diploma graduates. So nearly all of them have to have a diploma. And 60% have to score above average. The Army, the Navy missed that benchmark on the aptitude. They didn't make the 60%. And now the Navy and the Army are not making it now. And quality matters because if we are not bringing in people with the right aptitude and adequate aptitude, this is sort of the recipe for errors, mistakes, inefficient, poor communication, all the things, the recipe for readiness, right?
Right.
And so it's a concern.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a lot of those things would be a problem in any big organization,
That's
right?
correct. Yeah.
So then an obvious question, maybe an obvious goal for the military, you want to go after and bring in more of those high aptitude young people. I guess part of the challenge is the higher your aptitude, maybe the more choices you have. Are there tried and true ways or given all your study, ways you'd suggest that recruiters go about that to get a higher success rate?
So all of the policies I mentioned a little bit earlier have been shown in research to improve high quality recruiting, pay, bonuses, recruiters, advertising, marketing, all of those have shown to expand the market for high quality. But ultimately, what really matters, is you can expand the marketing, but if you don't have recruiters targeting their effort towards that market, you can have a bunch of individuals who are interested, but not the recruiters who are out there who are like kind of reaping that expanded interest. And so it's very important to make sure that the recruiters are targeting their efforts towards those types of people. So recruiters are in a way kind of like salespeople, if you will. They're selling not, widgets, they're selling military service, and they are under different incentive plans, and they need to, have the incentives focus on getting those types of kids. So those, on one hand, is sort of what the Army and the Navy, what they can do. But to your point, these individuals do have better civilian opportunities. They can, and college opportunities, right? And so it's important to communicate that some of these individuals, we know from surveys that some youth see the military as an interruption of their life. Like they don't want to interrupt their life to go do military service. And what we do know is the military is less of an interruption and more of a stepping stone. It provides the training, the opportunities for, maturing and so forth to give you the skills to go out into the civilian world and be, get good jobs and good training. So I think it's to convince those individuals that no, you're not interrupting your life. You're doing a stepping stone towards the career and the life you want to have.
Yep. Very, very clear. Appreciate it. One last question for you, Beth. And I don't, this is probably not a part, or I don't know that it has been of your recent work, but we know the Defense Secretary himself has talked about, restructuring, reorganizing within the Department of Defense. We have Elon Musk and his efficiency teams going all over the place. Is any of that impacting what we've been talking about, or don't you know?
It's really hard to say. There is, because of these recruiting issues, in some ways the recruiting commands have kind of gotten ahead of the game here. They have been on overdrive, really revamping their operations to improve what they're doing. And they have tried a lot of approaches. This is not part of DOGE, it's not part of that. It's just they saw we are not successful and we need to figure out how to do success. And so there's been a tremendous amount of reforms, rethinking, redoing, reallocating, restructuring in the recruiting world to be a more effective force to meet the recruiting goals. So I don't know, I mean, how all that's going to shake out for recruiting, but I do know that, a tremendous amount of efforts have already gone into rethinking recruiting.
Yep. Really appreciate it, Beth Ash at Rand. Learned a lot here in the last few minutes. Appreciate your being with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.